let's start with the very beginning. So point number 1, we have Robots.txt. Robots.txt is a file. Almost every website has it on the web. If somebody is not having it, it also is okay. But in our case, in e-commerce, Magento, each website should have Robots.txt file. What it does, it limits Google from crawling certain pages. And here we have actually Coena website. And any website has Robots.txt located in the root folder. So if you type this address, you always should see Robots.txt. If it's not there, in our case, it's a bug. So what we have here? First important thing is that for Magento, Magento 1, Magento 2, and Scandi PWA, there are slightly different Robots.txts. In general, they are pretty similar. So this is an example from PWA, and we can open an example from Magento 2. So you actually might see some similarities here. However, some details will be different. Also, Robots.txt might be a bit personalized based on individual project needs. However, if you are going with the default one, overall you are safe. What to take into consideration? Basically, what is written here? Each line represents a certain path which Google is not allowed to crawl. For example, we have here a rule which is disallow checkout. It means that Google can't open such URL. It just can't go in. It can't crawl the content of this URL. So it just, whenever it sees the website containing this path, it's not allowed to enter to this specific path. Why we are using Robots.txt? First of all, it helps to prevent Google from crawling too many pages and harm our server performance. So sometimes it happens specifically with Scandi PWA that if we allow to crawl everything, our infrastructure might be compromised in terms of like too many hits. Basically, it's almost like a DDoS attack. In general, Google is very smart, but sometimes indeed there happen situations when it's like a bit more too active in crawling. So therefore we are protecting our servers. We are also excluding, this is one of the most strongest rules for Google not touch any websites, the specific URL path. So we are ensuring that sensitive content is not being crawled, some login information, user accounts, etc. And we are also ensuring that here you can see that besides disallowing something, we are also showing you guiding search engines to XML sitemaps. We will cover them a bit later, but those are files which contain the most valuable URLs which we would like Google to crawl. So actually this is about disallow, and this is basically don't go here, but go here and crawl these URLs. What sometimes is slightly confusing about SEO is that there are more than one robots used to prevent crawling or indexing certain URLs or the whole website. So we just covered with you Robots.txt file, but what do we have additionally? First, more widely used element is meta robots. Let's look in practice what it is. Here we have one of our projects, Technodom.kz. It was one of the first PWAs launched. And here we have PLP opened, smartphones in Almaty. And we have selected 3 filters, Apple, Huawei, and iPhone 12. As the website is quite big and it serves quite a lot of smartphones and very different devices, amount of filtered navigation and combination of values is pretty endless. And each of them has a unique URL. So to ensure that at least part of the pages are not appearing in Google results, because we are speaking about millions of pages, and they might start to conflict with each other, and there are a lot of them. So just to exclude all those redundant amount of content, whenever 3 or more filters are selected, if we look in HTML, we can see meta robots with content no index, no follow. And note that meta robots can contain different values. However, normally on Magento, this is the one you will see. No index, no follow, or the opposite one, index, follow. What it means? It means that Google is allowed to crawl the website, but no index is not allowing Google to display this page in Google search results. And no follow part means that Google should not follow any link which is appearing on this URL. For example, click on products or continue to crawl different variations of the filters. What to take into consideration? That if we are applying no index, no follow meta robots in HTML, for PWA, it might cause an issue that Google has some limitations, and as well as other search engines, when it comes to rendering JavaScript. And this part we have in JavaScript already. So there are some workarounds. If you want pages don't appear in index when it comes to PWA. However, in general, would recommend you to cover this topic with SEO. However, in case of Technodom, let's quickly check if MetaRobots is doing their job. So we just checked with you if the page is appearing, this long URL is appearing on Google. As we see, we don't see this URL in Google. It means that the MetaRobots is working and goal achieved. No many combinations are indexed. And what about X robots? Let's see how they are looking in the practice. We have visited a pre-live version of Zahur Al-Reef website, which is built on PWA. So as mentioned, Google might have troubles with trying to render meta robots in HTML head for PWAs. So to ensure that Google can easily see no index, no follow directive for PWA websites, it's something you can implement as xrobots tag. Here we can see that. It's implemented on server response header, so basically HTTP header. So Google doesn't need to render anything. It can see this directive right away. In this case, it helps preventing pre-live website from appearing in Google search results. it would be also really cool to use X-Robots on specific URLs, because here it's implemented site-wide. However, so far it's not something we have achieved. However, for PWAs, it could be a good alternative to using meta robots on URL level. Because what to take into consideration when to use each robot, again, it can be a bit confusing. So when it comes to meta robots and X robots, we mainly want to block from indexing pages which are linked internally. So in the perfect case scenario, we would, if we would have a lot of layered navigation URLs, we would include them, or them to be covered with meta robots or X robots. If we are speaking about something which is not linked internally directly, for example, search result pages or some admin panel, it's something we would block in Robots.txt file mainly. However, this is something which can depend from project to project, and it's a whole separate in-depth theory and practice to cover all the possible combinations and usage of robots, either Robots.txt, meta robots, or X robots. So in general, this is something which is better set up by SEO specialist. Which version to use, where to apply it, and for which URLs. So this was just an intro for you. Hopefully it didn't confuse you even more, but helped a bit to understand the difference.